Hey everyone, welcome. See some folks still getting settled. That's great. Come on in. I'm delighted to see you here after seeing you at Shavers Creek, Stone Valley on Sunday. Thanks for all your efforts as you move through the world. We're on page 72 today, in case you'd like to jot things down. The first things that I'll have to offer for you are that our next extra credit movie happening at 7 o'clock. It is one of the series of films that's put on by the Sustain Penn State, Sustain PSU efforts. And it's in conjunction with the labor school. So the idea of working conditions and how people spend their time and how it relates to our consuming. So that extra credit movie, 7 o'clock Wednesday of next week. So that's an option for you. Also, the MSeeks are available until October 12th at 11:59 p.m. So please get some feedback in there for me and for the TAs, and so that we know how things are going, how things could be moving ahead for you in more smooth educational ways, I suppose, is the best way to phrase that, for your educational experience. So thanks for communicating with me through that, as well as all of you that I owe some of you emails. I will be working at my desk for real most of tomorrow, and so I'll be spending time getting those emails replied to. So thank you for your patience as I do that. I think that those are all the general announcements at this point. What we're going to do for our centering for today is thinking about, so you may have seen in the syllabus that this is what we call, what are the Earth's creatures telling us? And so we're going to think and focus specifically on birds. So as we think about our own bodies, if you put your feet flat on the floor, and bringing focus to particularly your shoulders, so maybe rolling your shoulders. First, that just feels good after carrying a backpack, after walking around, all the things that you've done today. Maybe you've been to the gym. Maybe you will go to the gym. So thinking about your shoulders, your connection there, sensing that it hooks together the pectoral muscles of our chest, right? And then our scapula, our shoulder blades in the back. So these are great levers that do all kinds of things for us, give us lots of power for lifting, for moving, for walking, for balance. All of that comes through this part of our body, right? So if you do a big shrug and then let your shoulders drop down, thinking about how your breath moves your body inside, moves your chest, all of that connected. So understanding that this set of pectoral muscles on us is pretty important. But when we look at the skeleton of birds, how their pectoral muscle, what's attached down here in this, I'll point at this one, under this area here is what's called their keel. And their keel is this really strong, sturdy bone that then the pectoral muscles attach, these huge muscles of their body. So it could actually be that this part of their body, the keel and the breastbone, or the keel and the pectoral muscles, can make up 30% of a bird's weight. So very significant in their bodies, right? So all of the power and the reason for doing that then, having it that way, is so that their levers are what they transport themselves with. Pretty important. And the idea that we have them, that they have them, that we are all bodies moving through this world in similar ways. So connections is what we're making. So we're working on developing ecological consciousness as we move through now to part 2 of the course. So thinking about what is environment and what is science and how it relates directly to us. The idea of becoming fully human, becoming fully connected in ways to our earth, to each other, to ourselves, is where we have been and where we will continue to be, except that now in part 2 of the course, it's going to be more about the sorts of things that you probably thought of when you signed up for environmental science. So it's going to be more about the resources, more about the challenges that the Earth is facing. So more angles of environment and science that we're going to be bringing together. So one of the Latin words of the word education, the Latin roots of education, educere, means that preparing a new generation for what is to come. So preparing a new generation, that makes sense, what we go through as education. And that education, preparing you for what is to come, that is for challenges that we know about, but it's also for challenges that we don't yet know are coming. So the idea that we are going to need those skills of questioning and metacognition and creating and thinking and reflecting and creating, all of those pieces are going to be really important moving into whatever the world is going to be moving ahead. So we're going to dig into some of the global challenges as we go into part 2, and you're going to likely feel a shift of energy of what was part 1 and now into part 2. So we're going to be building on, not forgetting what we learned. There's a reason we did all those 6 weeks of other stuff in order to move in and be more prepared to talk about these challenges that we're facing. So don't lose those ideas and those skills that you've gained of centering and breathing and reflecting. So in order to do this, we're going to start here. What are the animals of our planet telling us? And today we're specifically, as I said, talking about birds. And so it only makes sense for me to invite Doug from Shavers Creek, one of my esteemed colleagues and friends, to come and share this time with this class. So something a little bit different for today.
Hi,
Thank
friend.
you. Hi,
Yeah.
friend. Welcome, Doug.
It's good to be here.
Thanks.
Hello, Bysci World.
So, Doug, we'll start. This is a prompt that they've reflected on. The more of the world I'm in relationship, the more alive I become. So, by way of first introduction, what does this statement do for you? How would you reflect upon this? Or how do you live in the world this way?
My relationship with birds, that's what you're asking. Yeah.
Well, it could be that, the natural world, other people.
Sure, yeah. Can I pace?
You may
Okay,
pace.
thank you.
Yeah, just be you. It's good.
So I think about my relationship to birds, because that's what we're talking about today, right? And I love that birds animate our world. And I would say to you first, what relationship are you in with birds? Because I was in your shoes a long time ago. I've been curious about birds ever since I was a little kid, but it wasn't until I was in college that I took an ornithology class that had a whole other level of awareness. So where are you out right now? Any birds fans out there? Yeah, all right. Thursday's a big game. I have both Hertz and AJ on my fantasy football team. It's been a rough season so far, but or any Penguins fans or Ravens fans or what we got? Cardinals, Blue Jays, right? So clearly birds are in the background. We wear jerseys. We think about, the mascots of our sports teams. Anyone, well, if you're a typical American, We eat about 8 billion chickens a year. Let that
Just in
sink in.
America.
That's Americans consume 8 billion chickens, and if you're into eggs, 9 billion dozen eggs are consumed by Americans every year. Clearly, if you are what you eat, you're in relationship with birds. Or do you wear down, one of the best insulating materials known to people, right? So whether you may not realize it, you're in relationship to birds in some way, or it could be inspirational, right? The fact that birds fly. But I think about, I said they animate our world. They clearly, I cannot stop seeing, hearing birds. I'm one of those people. Sorry. Yeah.
Are you a birder?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say I'm a bird watcher. I would say I act on behalf of birds. I teach about birds. I use birds because I think birds, again, animate our world. And if you're looking at studying ecology and you want to look at ecological principles, I mean, you can't get any better than birds, right? They're accessible all year long. And because they migrate, they move. And so a walk in the woods today is going to be different than a walk in the woods tomorrow. Okay, yeah, I know plants do the same thing, but for a Pennsylvanian, there's something about this dynamic feeling of birds as they migrate. There are times of the year when hundreds of millions of birds move across central Pennsylvania in migration on a single night. Isn't that amazing? I just love the birds bring me awe. They inspire me. They, I don't know, I can't, they're part of my world. Yeah, I saw pigeons coming in today, just driving, I thought red-tailed hawk. I can't stop seeing. I see birds. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, there was a time in my life when, like, I'm sure that birds were singing in my backyard in my life, and I was not there. I was not on the same frequency. I did not, like, where did my childhood go? I mean, I recognized robins and blue jays and cardinals to some degree. My mom would say sparrow and finch as if they were interchangeable. And I know birds were singing to me, but they were not in my world for 27 years.
So what changed?
I don't know. Well, I do know. I do know. My TA for ornithology. Can I tell you my Chuck Yon story?
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Chuck Yon, as the ornithology TA, Chuck would do things. We're in the field. So if anyone wildlife students or know about ornithology, field ornithology with Julian Avery, just checking. Field ornithology, you go out and you identify birds, talk about birds, behavior, ecology, and so on. And Chuck was one of those birders who would, we'd be a group of 15 of us. He'd say, all right, over there's you hear that singing? Poor Sam Peabody, white-throated sparrow. And I'd be like, no way. There's no way that he could identify that bird without seeing it. I didn't believe you could do that. Or we're in a blue bus driving 55, 60 miles an hour, and on a wire, Chuck would go, yeah, it's an American kestrel. We just passed one. And be like, how did you possibly, that bird high up in the sky, I think that's a broadwing. Yeah, they're starting to move here in late April. I didn't believe he could do it. So I became a birder one day when I did the same thing, where I was able to put a name to a bird, a little American redstart. I'm still a plant person. I was identifying wildflowers. And I put a name to a bird because it's orange and black, small, dynamic. It's a warbler. I was able to put a name to it, and for there evermore, my world changed because I felt like, I don't know, like I named you, bird. You're in my world now. I have a file created, American redstart. Or when you learn to identify a turkey vulture as they rock back and forth in the sky, and you do that for others too. Hey, that's a turkey vulture. See it? And you get it too. something snaps in you where you become, there's no going back either. So be careful. If you become a birder, take that step to become aware about things in your world. It's hard to go back. It's hard to stop. So I'll just warn them ahead of time.
Okay, that's good.
That's okay.
I think that that's important. It's kind of
So I see
addicting.
birds. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see and hear birds.
Right. So what have you seen and heard, and what sort of story does that tell about what's happening on the planet? So seasonally, maybe a story about something that you've observed that may be different than you observed before, or so how have things
Sure.
changed over time?
So there is within the bird watching community, and you can apply it to anything you do. If you grew up dancing or playing soccer, or there's a difference between the community league soccer, right, and the travel team soccer, right? There's the same thing in bird watching. There's people who are, I just feed hummingbirds. Thank you very much. I'm a hummingbird fan. I put up hummingbird feeders each spring throughout the summer, and I take them down again in fall, and I just do hummingbirds. That's wonderful. I'm glad you do. You're a birder in my world. There are hawk watchers right now sitting up on Stone Mountain and Jack's Mountain, because we're in the Ridge and Valley, Providence, of Pennsylvania. We have great ridges for hawks migrating. When we first started at Stone Mountain about 25 years ago, we would sit there in the fall and we would see red-tailed hawks in late October and November. Hundreds of red-tailed hawks that time of year would pass, not in a single day, but just over the course of the season. You'd see a lot of red-tailed hawks. Guess what? Red-tailed hawks are not coming past the hawk watches anymore. You know why? There's still plenty of red-tailed hawks. They found out that winters in New England are not so bad anymore. They don't get quite the snow cover as they once did. Prey for a red-tailed hawk, rabbit, small mammals, they can find them in the wintertime. So even in that sense, climate change or global or climate disruption is a better term for it. In this case, in my lifetime, I've seen fewer migrating red-tails, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And there's more stories, but I don't, do you want sad bird stories, or just, because that's not really
Well,
sad. That's just a change in migration. Yeah.
Yeah, see what questions all of you have. What would you like to know from Doug about birds, the story of birds?
Yeah, this is the organic approach to education, right? Try to see what is of interest to you that we can tie into where you're going in this course. And it's great to be here today. You all came out to Shavers Creek. I met some of you on the trail. And some of you just walked past me, which is cool too. But thanks for being here today. So Jen wants to know questions in general about birds or population, or some of you might already consider yourself birders.
I wasn't gonna ask specifically about like birds and like that. I was gonna kind of ask what emotions you feel like when you're bird watching and what they invoke in you.
Emotions that I feel when I'm bird watching.
Or yeah, like exploring.
Yeah. So because I work at Shavers Creek, remember where the buses dropped you off? Like, that's a parking lot, right? But my office is in the same building where Jen's at, and every day I can choose, like, do I have enough time to walk to work? I bet I do. Do I have my binocular? I'm sure I have my binoculars with me. Could I do a little bird survey on the way to work? So every morning that I can, if I'm not goofing off too much and I'm out of bed, and moving, I walk to work and I record what I hear and see and add it to our database. So it's like a biodiversity of birds on a daily basis. We have 30 years of records now, so we know what birds to expect. So I'm always in a sense of curiosity. This morning, for the first time ever, I watched a little tiny ruby crowned kinglet, which is in migration through, eat white woolly aphids off of an alder. So I just threw out 3 nouns to you, right? What's an alder look like? If you don't know, you're not quite there with me. What's a white woolly aphid look like? They're little clumps of white tufts that are on alders this time of year. If you've never seen that, it's hard to imagine. You might just sleep through this. If you don't know what a ruby crowned kinglet is, you're also not there with me. But if you can picture this little tiny bird with its face full of these white tufts, it looked like it was eating cotton candy. I never saw that before. That was wonder and curiosity. But because there was an intern who was also doing something on the boardwalk, I was like, hey, I just saw this. So it's like that shared discovery, right? Like I saw something I've never seen before and I noted it. And birds on a regular basis give me a sense of awe. And then I was with a group of birders for I think it was just our weekly walk. And it was one of those cloudy mornings. Oh, it was a foggy morning, right? Over Lake Perez. And I get down to the boardwalk and I'm like, it's hard to see things. It's kind of a quiet morning. And I'm saying, you know what? You should scan the edges of the lake here. Look for herons. And you know what? There's sometimes where you see a bald eagle coming over the lake. And it must be because of my healthy, clean living that just at that moment, there's an adult bald eagle coming from the spillway coming across Lake Perez. And I watch it I'm like, and then sometimes, so I didn't go like cue the bald eagle, but I was in the right place, the right time with people who would also appreciate the fact that this bald eagle is coming out of the fog over Lake Perez. If that doesn't say, I don't know, there's something about being in a sense of harmony with the world. Like you just feel like I'm with the right people at the right time in the right moment. And together there's this community sense of appreciation. Do you ever do that with like shooting stars where you're with a friend, you're out sitting in the, and you see something like that, right? Or you're in Beaver Stadium, and something exciting happens. The game turns our way, Watching the Phillies last night, were they going to pull it out? Let's not talk about that. But it's that shared sense. So all those emotions, but on a regular basis, I feel a connection to the world around me that only will deepen with time. There's a certain joy to that. I think, all right, this photo is from, I think I have more gray in my mustache. Would you agree? So it's from a while ago, but I still look like a happy person, right? I mean, birds have an effect on you. Yeah. So again, you are warned, birding will make you happier.
Mm-hmm.
On a daily basis.
It's true. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about like, how are there birds that can fly and how are there birds that can't fly? Like what makes a penguin a bird if it can't fly?
Right. So if you were to think about like where do we fit in the taxonomy of life, right? We are a hummingbird is to penguin as human is to dolphin. How is it that dolphins are mammals like us, and yet they spend their time, could be a river dolphin in the rainforest of Brazil, or you could be, a white-sided dolphin in the Atlantic. So that same sort of wonderment or evolution acting on how we classify, mammals are how are we like whales, shrew, bats, mammals that can fly? And that diversity in birds is as awe-inspiring as mammal diversity. So a little tiny hummingbird that beats its wings 70 times a second. 70 times a second? I mean, how does that happen? How does that evolve? How do you evolve to dive hundreds of feet into the ocean like a puffin or a mure? How do you live in Antarctica like a penguin? Those emperor penguins are birds. How do you lose flight and run as fast as an ostrich? Those are all birds, right? They all have feathers. And if you didn't get the memo, dinosaurs are still among us. Yay, yay. Any of you dinosaur kids when you were little, you could name all, like, I know, yeah. Birds are living dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are still here. Hooray for, yeah, isn't that great? Give you something to talk about tonight for dinner. Hey, do you know dinosaurs are still here on this earth? Yeah.
I think I saw another question over here on, yeah.
Is there a particular moment or that made you focus on the moment itself?
Was there a bird or sighting that, what was the very last part of that question?
That it made you step back and stay in the moment? It's something that really made you present.
Yeah. This morning, watching that little kinglet, or with a group of people watching an eagle come, or just driving onto campus, watching those pigeons sit atop that building, wondering, what are the four of them thinking as they look down? Bird watching makes me very mindful of the moment because time stops when I'm bird watching. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. Like when I walk into work and walk across that boardwalk and 20 minutes later, I'm still trying to, and I'm like, I need to go. Mindful, being in present, or what's your mindful when you walk across campus? What's on your mind? What's filling your mind? And does it distract you at all from being mindful, fully present? I don't know. We have to watch about that, right? Like what do you put in your head on a daily basis? Part of my day, every day, I observe birds and I wonder, and I'm part of that. And that is a stress relief for me. I feel attached and part of something bigger and grander. What a gift that birds give me, that they allow me to do that. I'll tell you, watching that eagle coming off the lake, the amount of the stress reduction in that, I was already pretty, worried about the group I was with. Are they seeing things and all that? But my stress level watching that eagle, try watching the Philadelphia Eagles and watch my stress level go up. I've been watching the Eagles since I was a little kid. And let me tell you, after an Eagles game, I'm just like, why do I do this to myself? Why am I watching these people play? I cannot do anything but watch them, So I try to I don't even know if I can stand 4/4 of the Eagles. I don't know what it brings me anymore, You really have to question yourself. So question yourself, why,
Okay.
how many of you just scroll, right? Can you put, Jen, do you know this? I don't carry a cell phone.
I have noticed.
Yeah. I've never in my life have carried a cell phone.
True.
It's true. Yeah, you'll back me up on this. So, well, what if something happens to me? Well, you all carry cell phones. If I have a heart attack, you're going to call, right? You'll help me out, right? I've learned to navigate since I was a kid. I can read a map. Now, it doesn't mean I have an iPad, but it's hard to put an iPad in your pocket, I don't carry it around with me. There are times when I use iPads in the field. There's times when I use apps, but I do not carry a cell phone. There's no way to find me. If I leave the office and drive into here, I'm loose. I'm a loose cannon. I can go anywhere because no one can
That's
track
what I
me.
was just telling
They don't know
you.
where I am.
Yeah.
But the people that love me, they know where to find me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm usually pretty mindful because I'm careful what I put in my brain as much as I can. I can't, doesn't mean I live under a rock. I follow the New York Times. I read the New York Times. I listen to the news on occasion, but I don't do it all the time. I make sure I have a little bit of time for birds as much as I can. So I try to be mindful. Could you do that too? Could you give yourself 5 minutes when you're walking across campus just to sort of pay attention to something else? You were telling me about looking up. That was you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that about?
It's the piece that our brains get triggered differently, different parts of our brains when we are looking up. So if we're looking up, I shared this with you all one day when thinking about the world of awe and when we look at architecture, when we look at the light coming through the treetops, it triggers other parts of our brain that help us to be more balanced, getting outside of the stories that we can sometimes feel very alone inside of our thinking and series of thoughts. But if we're looking up, it triggers other neurons to fire in our brains. So bird watching is an opportunity for looking up.
Yeah, I'm always looking up when I walk across campus, right? Because the blue jays are flying across carrying acorns this time of year, and they're planting them across the world, in our little world. I might miss them. I hate to do that. Or the red-tailed hawk eating a squirrel in a tree. I mean,
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So I was thinking about how they could figure out what birds are. So I thought maybe we could look at that video about the app. That might, I mean, speaking about letting phones go and yet also having them as a tool. So I'm going to have Abby pull that up. And so if
That's
you want,
wonderful. Yeah, it's this is the New York Times?
yeah, this is the New
Yeah,
York Times
yeah.
study.
Yeah, so as you're watching this, if something doesn't quite, if you want clarification about what they're talking about, this moves right along. I love the images.
Yeah.
Climate change could affect nearly every aspect of birds. It could change their habitat. It could make it hard for birds to find food. It could interfere with migration, flying through wildfires, hurricanes, or drought. And so what that means is birds are canaries in the coal mine for climate change.
Birds are much more sensitive to a lot of environmental changes. So really by monitoring, we may get that early signal that there's something that we need to pay attention to.
And when you're interested in a group of animals that are as broadly distributed as birds, you need every set of eyes you can get. And so that's what citizen scientists come.
It's not possible, like even remotely, to expect that we can have enough professional biologists, detailed observations.
They really need people all around the world to volunteer to tell them what they're seeing in their own neighborhoods. So that's why this summer, the New York Times partnered with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology to ask readers to go out into the world, wherever they live, whether or not they had birding experience, to identify and track the birds they saw using an app called eBird, which would log their observations and report them back to the Cornell. We directed beginners to an app called Merlin, which would walk them through how to identify the birds they were seeing.
They're recording information about the species that they saw, the number of the species. They also submit information of the location, time of day.
We wanted people to incorporate birding into their daily lives, take note of what they were seeing at the bus stop, or on a park bench, or on the way to school drop off.
We don't need to understand birds or the environment only in the national parks. Right? We need to understand what's happening out there in the world everywhere.
So eBird data specifically has already been used in a ton of research studies. Scientists are tracking how migration is beginning earlier and how certain birds are expanding northward into cooler territories. There have been other interesting studies that have used eBird data to figure out that cities tend to favor bird populations that are smaller and lay fewer eggs at a time.
eBird data allows us to be much more precise with the way conservation is defined on the landscape. So an example is in Central Valley, California. We're able to identify which fields are the most important for waterfowl and waterbirds and shorebirds as they're migrating through the Pacific Cloud.
There are benefits for the scientists themselves, who suddenly have access to data they may not otherwise get, but there are sort of broader societal benefits too, in helping people become more cognizant of the other species that we share the planet with and how our fates are all intertwined.
You just flew to the tree.
This bird project taught me about how fragile the ecosystem around birds is.
This project motivated me to do more bird counting during the summer than I normally would have.
So the Times Project project is wrapped up, but we really hope that people will continue, that they've discovered a new way of looking at their world, that they've discovered new things about their communities, and maybe even found a new sense of community.
Hopefully over time, just being out there in the world and watching birds becomes just a natural part of your lives.
So does that spark any questions that come up for you? Thoughts, emotions? Thing you'd like to say? So the beginning bird app that they talked about is Merlin. And I have found this to be really fun, really exciting to spend time, especially when I travel to new places. So I too admit that I am a birder. And my resistance to that was very quickly overcome when I started as an intern and Doug was my supervisor a long time ago. That all these people with wacky, huge binoculars that cost a lot of money, and I thought people were crazy, like going out birding. And it was not very long until I, too, not expensive binoculars, but I owned some and spent time learning the songs and calls and how exciting it is to walk across campus, as Doug is saying, and be able to identify. But it takes practice. So I had a mentor that helped me before the world of the app. But now when I travel, and Doug's not with me, I get the chance to use this and learn about the birds that I'm hearing around. So I highly recommend checking out the Merlin app, and it will help you with visual sightings as well as audible sounds that can clue you into what's happening around you. So then what happens, Doug? What's that progression of, they're talking about how climate change and other things are affecting populations of birds. Can you
Sure.
elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, and I will say that this is a wonderful free app, Merlin. So it's a field guide and identifies the bird for you with a photo, or it takes you through how do you know that's a robin versus something else? So very powerful tool. And it's only probably a few years old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So based on bird surveys from a long time, volunteers doing breeding bird surveys, using this eBird data, scientists were able to say that if you did just a snapshot in time 50 years ago in North America, we had 10 billion birds in the summer. Fast forward 50 years, they were able to look at the data again and say, it appears that we have lost about 3 billion birds. So at one time, what we had 10 billion, now we have 7 billion. So close to almost a third of our birds, and not species, these are just individual birds. So at one point we had 10 orioles in this park, and right now we only have 7 because of the threats posed to birds. So again, you are warned. If you are already a birder, you already know what I'm talking about. If you are thinking that I could pay more attention to birds and I could perhaps even fall in love with birds, well, when you fall in love with something, right, it kind of motivates you to do something to help. And so what I think you can do to help, or what people are trying to do to help, is look at the threats to these birds. Why did we lose 1/3 of our birds? So you know this. You know it would be habitat loss and herbicide, pesticides, right? Poisoning birds still, or poisoning the insects that birds rely on. So there's that. Not a lot we can do about that. But it is also things like house cats and feral cats kill billions of birds a year, a lot of young birds that just have left the nest, that are learning to fly, fall prey to house cats. Keep cats indoors. That's a simple thing that we could all do. And don't have a house cat? Anyone in your world have a house cat? Well, that's what happens if you become a birder. You start like, hey, are you sure you want to let that cat outside? It's actually safer. Cats live longer when they're kept inside because they are pets. They're not predators that we release and put onto small mammals and birds. So things like cats or protecting windows. So birds don't see that windows. I watched my son when he was 3 years old. We were visiting some family members. They had a sliding glass door. I watched my 3-year-old run into that sliding glass door and bounce off and fall. I'm like, huh, I guess 3-year-olds don't necessarily recognize glass when they're, maybe we were going in for cake or something. I don't know. But Dylan hit that door and I thought, that's interesting. What time? Maybe he was 2. Like, what point do humans know that glass is not something that you can pass through? Birds don't know that. Why should they, right? They've been on this world for 100 million years. Glass is just a little fraction of that time to them. So the windows that, if you're in architecture or like glass, you know, you design with glass, glass for birds is just a killing machine because they just want to go right through it. Or they see the vegetation reflected in it and they don't know that they can't fly through that. They don't see glass. They have excellent eyesight. Birds have better eyesight than we do, but they just don't get glass. Why would they? So that's another thing. Keep cats indoors, protect glass. I think, Jen, oh, you have, yeah, you can drink coffee. That's promotes areas of the world that grow coffee. You can have an overstory and an understory of coffee. The diversity of birds in that is much higher. It can be as simple as your purchasing power. What do you buy? And drinking bird-friendly coffee, simple thing.
I'm still curious what questions are coming up for all of you. I think there were some hands earlier. How do you make these connections? Yeah.
Can you expand more on the coffee? Because I never heard that before. Please.
Expand on coffee.
Yeah, so just like a movement for, or buy organics, right? In the case of coffee, there's the American Bird Conservancy and the Smithsonian Bird Conservancy that travel and can put a stamp of approval that this farm in Costa Rica or in parts of Africa that grow coffee or Indonesia, they have agricultural practices just like we would have organic standards that they can say, when you buy your coffee from here and get it roasted at this coffee shop or online, you can order it. Anyone belong to the coffee club at Penn State? There's a coffee club. I've been trying to influence the coffee club for years and years. I can't quite crack that code someday. But it's as simple as that. You just look for the certification.
And so the idea is that another additional piece about that is that the birds that are here during the summer are spending their time in the winter in Costa Rica, in Nicaragua, in Honduras. And so protecting habitats there, making habitat friendly instead of cutting down all the natives and planting just coffee trees, that they can coexist, the native trees with the coffee growing. And then those birds have safe landing spaces in those tropical places. And then they migrate back here and hopefully have safe places here too. So it's that habitat in 2 locations. Yeah.
And Jen, I'm thinking, I asked if any wildlife students, right? And I think, right, but wildlife students would be taking different emphasis in biological classes. But then I think about, like, what are your majors? Do you know that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does a survey every 5 years? The number of people in this country that say they watch wildlife, it's like 140 million Americans say they watch wildlife. 90 million Americans identify that with, I like birds. I'm a bird watcher. I'm a birder. 90 million Americans. That's a significant chunk of people, and they spend hundreds of billions of dollars on bird-related, whether it's travel, binoculars, gear, tours. It's big business. And up there is also reduced lawn, plant native plants, the whole horticultural trade. Birds rely on native plants because native plants support native insects. And so that's another whole field that ties to birds.
It's actually all interrelated.
Oh, you know, it is. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
There's somebody else with a
Yeah.
question here in
Yeah.
the middle.
Oh, I just had a question. So what, I feel like we all have like one section of like animals that we're most drawn to. So like some people really like marine life. I really like bugs. So why birds instead of like any of the other like categories?
Birds are like, when I walk outside here, I'm going to see birds. I'm going to see pigeons or starlings or house sparrows, and they're going to move, right? And in the springtime and summer, and even now to a lesser extent, birds sing to me. Now, I know bugs, I know katydids are still singing, tree crickets are still singing, but they do that for a little bit of the time. Birds are all the time animating, but if you love insects, you'll eventually come around to birds because I like insects too. I like plants, I like trees, I like, it's all interconnected. Be careful, right? If I don't want anyone complaining years from now when you start thinking about where I'm going to go on vacation and you look at the list of birds that you might see there, because now you're a birder, don't come complaining to me. If you're a happier person because you look at birds and you appreciate birds and you're driven a sense of awe, you're mindful of birds, don't come complain about me because you're a happier person, okay? I didn't do that. That's you. That's your fault. Go forth, see birds, allow them into your world. You will not be disappointed.
Thank you, everyone. We do have a discussion question that will be up after class, and it is coming. Here it is. I hope that you have a beautiful day. Thank you. Never know.
Oh. Hand them to me as you leave. Lee, can I talk to you then if it's okay? Okay. Sorry. It's okay. I'm sorry.
I give it to you on
That's
Thursday
fine.
or
Yeah.
do you want Friday?
Whichever.
Okay.
Probably Thursday.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. It's okay. Yes, you did. I have yours. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanna, oh, go ahead. Sorry, guys. Sorry, y'all. I just wanna check in on your journals. Okay. Okay.